Hey everyone, my name is Courtney and this is What's for Din. Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite things to eat in the winter, and that's beef stew. It's a very basic recipe, but I tell you what, when you feel like you're getting sick, this is what you eat. Or if you're just looking for something to eat while you're in your sweatpants watching football on a Sunday, this is perfect for that. So let's go over the ingredients and we will get started. Okay, so the ingredients you're going to need is just a tiny bit of olive oil, beef stock, red wine. Now, you don't have to use this. If you decide that you don't want to ever use alcohol in any of the recipes, just add a little bit more of the beef stock. So we're going to need flour, tomato paste, garlic, and then I have just a bunch of different vegetables, potatoes, celery, onions, carrots, and then we're going to need some beef. Now, this is just beef chunks cut up into little tiny, well, I guess not tiny, but thick cut pieces. You can make them smaller than that. It all depends on what you like. I like them big because beef stew just feels like something that should be big for me. So let's go over the stove and we'll get started. Okay, so we're going to start off by browning our beef. Now this is really important because this is going to add a lot of flavor to your stew. So in here I have some olive oil that's already pretty hot. You want it hot because you really want it to brown the beef really well. And then I have my beef. I already seasoned it with salt and pepper, and that's all you really need. Now, this part is important. You do not want to crowd your pan, because if you crowd it, then you are not going to be browning it, you'll be steaming it. And the little brown bits that stick to the bottom of the pan is what's going to give you a ton of flavor. Okay, so we're just going to wait until these are browned on the bottom and then flip them over and brown them on the other side. All right, now we're just going to flip it over. You see the other side is nice and brown. And you don't want to cook it all the way through, you're just browning it right now because the actual cooking the beef all the way through is going to happen when you put the stew all the way together. You just want to brown the sides. See all those bits at the bottom? That is what's going to give you an insane amount of beef flavor. All right, so now our beef is nice and brown. See all that nice color on there? Looks like a piece of steak. Kind of is. I'm just going to take it out and put it on a plate and set it aside, and then we're going to work on cooking our vegetables, and then we'll add the beef back in. So now I took out all my beef, and you can see there's a lot of burnt bits at the bottom. I leave that in. You can drain it if you want to, but that adds a lot of flavor, so I don't see any sense in taking it out. But I want to add just a little bit more olive oil to that, just so there's enough to cook all my vegetables. And into this, I'm going to add all of my veggies besides the garlic. I don't add the garlic yet. It goes in there. I'm going to season it with some salt, pepper. I use a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of cayenne to make this flavor stand out. Rosemary. You don't have to use these spices, but you'll find that in all my videos I use these like crazy because they're my favorite ever. All right, we're gonna cook these and try to scrape off the bottom of the pan to get all those crusties off the bottom. That's a lot of flavor. That's what's gonna make this super good. So we're just gonna cook these until they develop a little bit of color and they cook down slightly, and then we'll add our garlic. The reason I didn't add my garlic yet is because if you add it, it'll like fall to the bottom and it'll start to burn, and when garlic burns, it does not taste good at all. Woo, hot doggy. All right, so our vegetables have a little bit of color. Might be hard to see because of the steam, but I have it on quite of a high temperature. But I want that because I want these to cook down just slightly and add some color. I'm going to add my garlic in now, which is a lot. I told you I like garlic. I ain't playing. Woo! He did not want to be part of this fun. All right. Mix that in. Let this cook for about 3 minutes, I guess, 3 or 4 minutes. Just enough to release that garlic smell and flavor into the other vegetables. So now these vegetables are cooked just where I want them. As you can see, it's kind of sticking to the bottom again, but that's okay. Now this is where we're going to thicken it up. We're going to add a little bit of flour. Again, I'm making a roux. And I like my stew really thick. So if you want it thicker, add more flour. If you want it less thick, it's all about personal preference here. Beef stew is something that's really, really hard to mess up, so you really can't go wrong. All right, so cook this flour for about 2 minutes and just keep stirring so it doesn't burn to the bottom, just until the flour taste is gone. All right, so now that that's cooked for about 2 minutes, we're gonna deglaze the pan with a little bit of red wine. Now, like I said before, you do not have to use wine. You can just use the beef stock for this part, but I like using this. It adds just such a deep flavor to it. Stir that in. And then we'll just let that kind of reduce for a little bit. And that's just gonna mix in with the flour. Doesn't look appetizing in this part, but I tell you, it's gonna be good, trust me. Okay, now that that's cooked down a little bit, we're going to add my tomato paste, that in there, and some beef broth. I use the whole thing. Okay, mix this together. Whoop. Now, as you can see, I used a lot of vegetables, so you may need to add a little bit of water for this part, and that's just perfectly fine if you have to do that. So I'm actually going to add a little bit of water. All right, let's mix that up. And kind of get your spoon and scrape the bottom of the pan, just to release any brown bits that went down there. And then once again, because my beef broth is unsalted, it has low sodium, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. I always season every single layer that I put into my meal, only because the flavor comes out so much better. At the end of the day, you don't have to end up adding more salt or pepper to it. You know, so I never keep salt and pepper on my kitchen table because the food never needs it, because it's already seasoned enough for that very reason. All right, now we're waiting for that to come up to a boil. I'm going to put in my beef. Now, all the juices that accumulated on the bottom of the pan, pour that right in. That's good stuff. That's going to make it taste super good. All right, that goes in, and we'll mix this up. All right, now we're going to bring this up to a boil, and then we're going to let it sit for about 1 hour to 2 hours, depending. You don't want your potatoes to dissolve into nothing, so you have to keep an eye on that. But I'd say about 1 hour at least, and 2 hours if you lower the temperature just a little bit. So we'll come back when it's done. So our stew has been on the stove for about 1.5 hours. Set this over here so it doesn't melt my tablecloth. As you can see, it's really thick. Now at this point, I have already checked to make sure that it was seasoned well enough. I added just a little bit more salt, only because I had added that water, just to make a little bit more broth. This is so hot, so I'm going to serve this up. I want a lot of vegetables. Okay, I think it might be cool enough now. It's really hot, but it's really good. The gravy is really thick. Potatoes are tender. The meat is so tender that it like falls apart. You can just break it apart with your spoon. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching me make this recipe, and I hope you make it at home. You can also make this in the crock pot too. Just once you do the roux and everything and put all the vegetables together, throw it in the crock pot before you leave for work. Come home and it's already ready for you. And it's super good and it's super warming in your belly. So I hope you remake this recipe and share it with me on Instagram. Please follow me and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.